Everyone, this is Data Engineer 1, and welcome back to another video on writing data pipelines with Kedro. In today's video, we're going to be talking about dataset injecting and dataset versioning. So, what is dataset injecting? Well, if you've noticed, first off, in our data pipelines, we don't actually have the entirety of the pipelines specified in the catalog. So just a quick reminder, the way that Kedro works is we're always working with nodes as well as data sets. So in this case right here, we have these nodes, and then we have these data sets, right? There's example train X, example train Y. I think it's actually a little more clear if we go into the data engineering one. And we can see here we have our input data set, which is the example iris data, and then these output data sets, which are the iris scatter plot data transcodes, right? However, and just as proof of the matter, we're actually going to go into the catalog here, and we can see inside of the catalog that these guys exist. The iris data set exists as well as the scatter plot data sets exist. But if you take a look here, the outputs of the split data, example train X, example train Y, example test X, text Y, these actually don't exist. They don't exist in the catalog. So what gives? Like, how does Kedro know how to handle these guys? Well, Kedro, for each of the kind of like instances for a Kedro run, Kedro uses what's called a runner. And by default, we use the sequential runner. So Kedro runs all the pipelines using the sequential runner, which also decides the default data set that is used when there is no data set specified. And so the default for the default of sequential runner is an in-memory data set. So that means that all the outputs that we get from our nodes are actually kept in memory. So that's why we don't actually have to specify any kind of data sets here. It's all just automatically kept in memory. Now this is really great for things like Spark Kedro pipelines, where you want to do all of the calculations, all of the Spark calculations at the very end. So you have each of these nodes that is transforming a data frame, a Spark data frame. You want to just build up all those transformations and then execute them all at the very end. This is, of course, lazy evaluation. It's one of the best parts about Spark and why it was much faster than Hadoop MapReduce. The trick though here is that what if you want to take a look at some of the output that is coming out of one of these nodes? Well, this is where dataset injecting comes into play. So say, for example, we want to take a look at the output of the example train X and train Y. Right now it's going in memory. How do we get it as an output? Super simple. All you have to do is you just add it as another data set. So for example, the example train X as a data set. We're going to use a pandas CSV dataset, and then we're actually just going to have the file path be right inside of the data, sample train x.csv. Boom. We can hit right on that, quit all, and then when we rerun this Kedro pipeline, what you'll find is that you'll find the data has landed within our data folder. So no longer is it being in memory, we're actually writing it out to the folder as well as reading it back in from the folder. So that IO operation is automatically handled by Kedro. So again, this is one of the coolest parts about Kedro is that flexibility in managing how our data is stored. So we're separating the IO from the actual transformation itself. And notice we didn't have to change any code in our pipeline. The only thing that we changed was an entry inside of the catalog. So there's that train X. So what's really cool about this is that Kedro supports versioning of all of your data sets. So you can actually take a look at a different version of your pipeline or a different version of your data. So say, for example, here, we have this model accuracy on the test set is 96.67. That's calculated by the pipelines here, this data science pipeline. And it's done right here in this thing called report accuracy. It takes from the example predictions and the example test Y, and then gives you a different output every time. This is random because of our split node function or split data function that's done inside of the data engineering pipeline, which will randomly sample the data itself. So this means that we're actually going to get a different result every time we run Kedro run. So right here it's 96.67. If we run again, we get 93.33. Now, what if you wanted to actually take a look at the data, or you want to take a look at the predictions from that model, right? If you're trying to like modify or trying to iterate on your pipeline, you want to be able to have a history of your versions. So that's where versioning comes into play. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to just take a look again at what the pipeline was outputting. And so this is inside of the data science pipelining. And what we're going to do is we're going to add in and we're going to inject a data set in order to grab the example predictions as well as to grab the example test Y. So this can be done by just modifying the catalog. And so instead of example train X, we're actually going to have another one here, example test Y. And this is going to be a CSV data set in this case. We're also going to do it right here. And then we're going to have one that does example predictions. The type of the example predictions, though, has to be a little bit different. And that's because if you take a look at the actual nodes themselves, we go to Edit, Source, Introduction, Pipelines, Data Science. And the node itself, this is the report accuracy node. Oh, I'm sorry, not the report accuracy node, but the train model node here. It outputs a NumPy array, as well as the predict model outputs a NumPy array, and then the report actually outputs nothing. So the NumPy arrays actually don't support Pandas CSVs. So you actually have to save those as pickle files. And so Kedro comes with a pickle local data set, which allows you to pickle things. We just have to put the file path here. We're going to put data example predictions.pickle. Now, in both of these cases, what we're going to do is we're going to add something called version true. So this is a flag that works with most of the built-in Kedro datasets. It won't work with our custom ones because we didn't implement it, but it's very easy to implement. What this will do is it'll create a version for that dataset every time we run the pipeline. So when you run Kedro run, the data catalog itself gets a specific version number and will pass that version number to every single one of the datasets that supports versioning. So in this case, we got model accuracy on the test set to be 100%. We can take a look at the pickle files if we go here to data. And so we had an example test Y CSV as well as the pickle here. So it's interesting because as you can see, there's like a little slash. That means that it's a directory. It's no longer a CSV file. If you look inside of the directory, you're going to see the version that corresponds to our last run. So this was our last run and it's done with the timestamp. And if you look inside of there, that's where you can find the data itself. So we can actually do this any number of times. And we're actually going to get a different version every time. And again, that version number is also the same version number that will be shared across all data sets that are versionable. So if you look in here, you'll see that both of the pickle and the CSV file have the same versions. Let's go ahead and do one more run so we can see if we can get a version where the model accuracy is a little bit different. Here we go. So this is accuracy 93.3. So we should be able to actually rerun the pipeline, and this is really cool, with a different version. So you actually load a particular version for a particular data set. So for example, in this example predictions, we want to have this data set. You type in the dataset name first, and then the version that you want to load. In this case, we want to load this version. As well as for the example test Y dataset, we want to load that first version. Boom. This. And so by running the pipeline in this manner, we're actually forcing Kedro to use a particular version of the output. And as you can see, this then gave us the correct reporting accuracy, which was what we had previously, which was 100%. If we were to, for example, use a different version, the most recent version, who had an output of 93.33%, we should be able to see that change in the output by changing to that version number. Clicking here, like that, and we should be able to see 93.33%, and there it is. So in this way, Kedro can save your versions of your data. And so of course this is really, really powerful. It allows you to go back in time to see what the data pipeline was at that state, and then see like the outputs and do all your recalculations and things. Okay, well, that ends it for today's video. I hope you guys learned something. Stay safe, take care, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye-bye.